For centuries, humanity had been a quiet participant in the wider galaxy. Despite mastering faster-than-light travel, gravity manipulation, and quantum engineering, humans chose a path unlike the empires around them. While others expanded, conquered, enslaved, and warred, humans focused inward, building, preparing, watching. The wider galaxy often mistook this for weakness. A dangerous mistake. It started on the outer colony of Vega Prime, a peaceful settlement built on the edge of known space. A world of artists, scientists, farmers, far from the politics of the Galactic Concord. It had no warships, no planetary shields, no weapons. That's why the Korthan Syndicate came, a brutal, nomadic slaver species that thrived on raiding unarmed colonies. The Korthans had grown bolder in recent years. Their ships were fast, their weapons cruel, their technology outdated by Terran standards, but against unarmed civilians it was more than enough. They struck fast. Orbital bombardments took out Kamsa rays. Dropships landed in the city centers. Men, women, and children were dragged from their homes, loaded into stasis pods, and branded as property. Entire towns vanished in hours. When the distress signal went out, it wasn't a call for help, it was a recording, a message. A Korthan warlord's laughter echoed across the galaxy as he broadcast images of humans in chains, forced to kneel under alien whips. See how the Terrans kneel, their time is over. It wasn't just an attack, it was a challenge, a provocation. When the signal reached Earth, there was no rage, no screaming politicians, no fiery speeches. There was silence inside the command chamber of the Terran Defense Directive. A single protocol was quietly activated, one that had remained dormant for over 300 years. Omega Response, CIVRECO-1, Civilian Recovery Protocol 1, Authorization Echo Black, full release. The officers in the room didn't question it. No one needed to. The rule was clear, ancient, and absolute. If you take our people, then there is nowhere in this galaxy you can hide. The Korthans had seen Terran cargo ships, patrol cruisers, science vessels. But what they had never seen, what nobody had seen, was the Shadow Fleet, a force built in secret. Not for conquest, not for expansion. For retribution, hidden inside the atmospheres of gas giants, buried beneath barren moons. Hidden in subspace folds, the Shadow Fleet was a collection of stealth dreadnoughts, graviton lance carriers, planetary siege ships, and hunter-killer drone swarms numbering in the millions. These ships had no registry, no names, no ID codes, only hull numbers. And a mission. As the fleet began to mobilize, gravitational ripples spread through the Sol system. Fold space ruptures opened like black scars in the void. One by one, the Shadow Fleet vanished from Terran space, headed for Korthan territory. Outposts near Korthan space picked up anomalies, strange black shapes moving faster than any known drive should allow. Ships with no heat signatures, no engine trails, no radio signals. Just voids where light itself refused to exist. Galactic Concord observers watched nervously. The Korthans were hated, but even the most aggressive empires knew this was different. When a scout station tried to ping the fleet, it received one response. A message burned into every screen. You took our people, now watch what comes for you. And then nothing but static. Korthan outposts were the first to fall. Surveillance satellites blinked out. Orbital shipyards collapsed as graviton shear weapons folded them into themselves like paper. Communications arrays vanished under pinprick. Singularity bombs, entire stations reduced to fist-sized compressed matter. No warnings. No survivors. The Korthan fleet scrambled to respond. Warships launched. Defense grids activated. But what they saw next wasn't an armada. It was a storm. Dark shapes emerging from fold space ruptures. Beams of pure gravitational distortion sliced through ships, bending metal and flesh alike. Kinetic rods traveling at 0.99 C impacted moons, turning them into expanding clouds of plasma and debris. The Korthan High Command tried to flee. Their escape ships never left orbit. Hunter-killer drones, called Widowmakers, swarmed like locusts, breaching hulls, turning entire crews into red mist. By the time the Terran fleet reached the Korthan homeworld, the skies were black. Debris fields stretched for millions of kilometers. Fires raged in orbit as the shattered remains of stations, ships, and satellites burned against the upper atmosphere. Korthan civilians stared upward, not at stars. The stars were gone, blotted out by the wall of Terran dreadnoughts hanging silently in geosynchronous orbit. For the first time in their history, the Korthans, the predators, knew fear. They came for us. They really came. The Korthan High Council had always operated under the same assumption that every predator does, that there would always be prey. For centuries, their raiding fleets had targeted the weak, the unarmed, and the isolated. But they had never faced prey that could become the storm itself. Now, for the first time in their history, the hunters became the hunted. The Terran fleet didn't speak. There were no warnings, no demands, no negotiation windows. Not because humanity had forgotten diplomacy, but because it was never offered for situations like this. Humanity's law was simple. Hurt no one, take no one, but if you do, then you belong to the void. Above the Korthan homeworld, the dreadnoughts waited in perfect, ominous silence. The orbital defense grid opened fire, desperate, erratic. Lances of plasma, kinetic, slugs, and graviton torpedoes streaked toward the Terran fleet. None of it mattered. Before the first volley even closed half the distance, the Terran warships vanished. Not through stealth, not through cloaking, through sheer technological dominance. The space folded around them, bent, split, reality became an origami sheet in human hands. The dreadnought's phase shifted into the subspace layer, bypassing the entire defense grid as if it didn't exist. When they emerged, they were already inside orbit. Inside the planetary shields, inside every range that was supposed to be impossible. The assault was not indiscriminate. Terran AI warlords calculated every strike with precision measured in centimeters. Civilian structures spared, military compounds erased. Orbital command stations imploded, high-energy graviton shear beams lanced through the planetary shield generators, folding them inward until the shield nodes collapsed into singularities, devouring themselves. Then came the stellar lances, kinetic rods launched from low orbit at near-light speed, their mass augmented by artificial gravity wells. Each impact hit with the force of a small star, flattening military bases, evaporating mountain ranges, and glassing entire armored bunkers. The Korthan Navy's flagship, the Crimson Talon, attempted to flee. It didn't make it beyond the atmosphere. A Widowmaker drone hive intercepted it mid-ascent, tearing its hull apart molecule by molecule. The crew never even had time to scream. Then, humanity deployed what the galaxy had only heard whispers about. The Echo Legion. Titan-class warforms, biomechanical horrors standing over 60 meters tall. Covered in adaptive nano-armor, armed with gravity hammers, phase disruptors, and fusion lances, they did not land. They phase-shifted directly into the heart of Korthan military districts. One moment, there was a base. The next, a pulse of blue light, followed by a crater where the base used to be. Korthan soldiers fought back. Plasma rifles, railguns, mechs, tanks, none of it worked. Bullets bent around graviton shields. Lasers scattered against molecular deflection fields. An Echo Titan stepped through a formation of Korthan armor, swinging a gravity hammer the size of a house. The hammer's impact generated a localized gravity well, folding tanks into spheres of compressed metal and meat. The most terrifying weapon wasn't the dreadnoughts. It wasn't the Titans. It was the silence. Every Korthan transmission from ground troops, from fleet commanders, from planetary leadership, was jammed, overridden, and replaced with a single Terran signal. You took our people. Now watch what comes for you. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't angry. It was whispered, calm, cold, delivered in every frequency, every channel, every language. Korthan soldiers began abandoning their posts. Civilians rioted, not to flee, but because there was nowhere left to flee to. We made a mistake. Gods forgive us. The humans are real. The darkness, it's everywhere. It's above us, below us, inside us, in the middle. Of annihilation, Terran Special Forces executed Civric Protocol civilian recovery from orbit. Drop pods streaked down, not for war but for retrieval. They landed with pinpoint accuracy at slave pens, processing centers, and prisons. AI-guided infantry swarmed in, disabling slaver defenses, cutting through biolocks, and recovering every single human captive. Prisoners stepped out of their cages to find armored Terran soldiers waiting. You're safe. You're going home. In a galaxy used to cruelty, it was unthinkable that a species would burn entire civilizations. Not for conquest, but to bring their people home. No quarter. No mercy. Once the captives were secured, the Terran fleet issued the final protocol. No functional Korthan military assets may remain, no slave markets, no raider fleets. No command centers, total correction, planetary shipyards. Gone. Weapon depots, vaporized command bunkers, folded into quantum singularities. Even the star itself was touched. In the final minutes, the Terran fleet deployed a stellar collapse weapon, not to destroy the sun, but to destabilize its magnetosphere temporarily, generating a pulse that fried every unshielded electronic system across the entire solar system. Korthan ships drifted dead. Stations went dark. Communications gone. A species that once roamed the stars as apex predators was reduced, in a matter of hours, to a Stone Age civilization. The message left behind before the Terran fleet withdrew, they left one thing in orbit. A relay buoy, broadcasting in every known language, projected in holograms into the night sky of the Korthan world. This is what happens when you take our people. There will be no next time. Remember, Sol? When the Terran fleet folded space and vanished from the Korthan system, the silence that followed was not peace. It was the kind of silence that comes after a supernova where light itself seems ashamed to linger. The galaxy had watched. And the galaxy would never forget. Every empire, kingdom, and syndicate in known space had tuned in. The Korthan raid was public. Their mockery of humanity had been broadcast across every channel, and so, too, was their punishment. Censors from neutral parties, intelligence agencies, and even pirate cartels captured pieces of the Terran assault. Enough to stitch together a terrifying reality. This wasn't warfare. It was correction. Entire species watched helplessly as the Korthan Empire, once an apex predator, was reduced to fire, ash, and echoes. Their fleets erased, their cities silenced, their stars dimmed. By the void, humans are monsters. No, they are something worse. They are patient. In the days that followed, embassies across the galaxy scrambled to send envoys to Sol, not with threats. Not with demands. But with gifts, apologies, treaties, unconditional surrenders. In everything except name, the Zarathi technate, known for centuries as smug isolationists, publicly broadcast a statement: the Sol system and its people shall be regarded as a sovereign empire of absolute neutrality. Any violation of this neutrality is considered a declaration of extinction. Even the dreaded Zal warlords, who had once raised 13 planetary civilizations in a single century, disbanded half their fleets overnight. Their war councils issued a single directive to their commanders: if a Terran ship appears on your scope, disengage immediately without question. When diplomats finally made it to Sol, they found no banners of victory, no grand parades, no empire-building. Earth remained quiet. The Terran fleet returned to its hidden holds. The Shadow Fleet sank back into the fold space scars it had come from. Humanity made no demands for territory, no spoils, no wealth. Their demand was simple: we desire peace. We expect respect. Violate either. And we return. It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. In orbit over the ruins of the Korthan homeworld, a Terran monument now floats eternally, a black obelisk forged from neutronium, impossible to destroy. On its surface, etched in every known galactic language, is a single inscription: you took our people. Now watch what comes for you. Remember, Sol. It orbits forever, a silent sentinel, a warning visible from the surface. casting its shadow across the burned remains of the Korthan cities. Laws changed overnight. Where once the Concord tolerated slave markets, piracy, and raiding, now there was terror and even suggesting it. Entire slave empires collapsed, not from war, but from sheer fear. Planets that had been raiding colonies for centuries suddenly freed all their captives, dismantled their fleets, and sent reparations to anyone related to humans, whether they were Earthborn or colonists. The next generation knows the story. In the decades that followed, the story became legend. Across the galaxy, children of every species learned the story of the day the humans came. Some called it the day the sky cried fire, others called it the wrath of Sol. But all remembered the final truth. Humanity does not conquer. They do not enslave. They do not expand by force. But if you take from them, if you harm their people, there will be nowhere in this galaxy safe from their shadow. In a distant star system, a young alien child asks their elder, staring up at the stars, "Is it true, grandparent? Did the humans really destroy an entire empire just to get their people back?" The elder nods, staring at the dark patch of sky where the Korthan star used to shine. "It is true. Never forget, child. When the humans move, the sky itself trembles." As the final fold space ruptures closed behind the Terran fleet, a final signal rippled through the galactic network. This is humanity's only warning. Harm no innocents, take none who are not yours. Live in peace or live in fear. And then only silence, a silence that the stars would remember forever.